And they always say if you want to build a product or startup or something like that, you're best off building for yourself, building in a world you know. If I was going to go and try and build accounting software, I wouldn't know where to start, and the chances of me being able to build anything half decent would be pretty slim to none. But here I had a real problem that I'd solved for myself. I'd seen it used internally at the last company I was at, and so I thought, there's a good chance of this succeeding because I've already seen it succeed in the limited context. So it seemed like it was worth the investment in terms of time from that point of view.
All right, but like when you started it, you start with the intention of selling it or to other customers, or is it just for your own use?
We started as an internal tool entirely. So I built it partially in my free time and partially in company time because it benefited and the company was internal.
So where did you find that free time? I guess that's my question. How did you manage your time in such a way that you had time to do your job? And I'm looking at your resume. You were a lead. You were not just an SE. You were also a team lead in some places, and you basically were doing a good job. Otherwise, you wouldn't be given that role. So, how did you have time to do both?
There's something about writing code. Doesn't matter how good you are. It's super addictive, right? And once you get rolling, and I'm by no means a software engineer. Just hack together things here and there. It's really rewarding. And so you keep finding time for it, I guess. And it's life's busy sometimes, but it's nice to be able to throw a couple hours here and there at a hobby and get something out of it, I guess.
That's funny because I guess if you're gonna be addicted to something, be addicted to something.
Yeah.
That's good. And how did that affect your career within that company? Did you get feedback? Did they fight with you?
No, got some great feedback because I started with it as being something for sales engineers, and pretty quickly realized that our professional services team had the same need, our customer success team had the same need, our pre-sales strategy team. So we launched the same tool for 4 or 5 teams within the company. Even the co-founder was using it. He was kind of leading up one of the product teams at that point in time, and was using it for his meetings with customers to get feedback. He's using it to generate architecture diagrams and such. So got a lot of positive feedback. Yeah.
Nice. And okay, did it benefit your career in in terms of promotions or team lead positions or anything like that, or was it?
Hard to say. Right? Hard to say. I got promotions at that company, but I don't know if it was directly because of this.
Okay. It's just interesting that it didn't hurt, probably.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
A lot of people are worried about doing that because it might hurt their career, but mainly because you started it for the company that you're working for. And
yeah. And I think, as a sales engineer, you always have these side things you want to work on, whether it's some new messaging or a document that explains something or a tutorial video, right?
Yeah.
And that always gets second priority to work with customers, prepping for meetings, POCs, right? RFPs, whatever it may be. So yeah, this was the same. It was a second priority, but in times when things are a little bit quieter, covering European customers over the summer when everyone's on holiday, you find a few hours at work to do this kind of thing. And having managers who were supportive of it and trusted that you had your priorities in the right place, and they would happily then support you to work on any of these kind of side project things that were work related.
And you've since moved companies, right?
Yeah, so left that company, started at Amplitude at the start of last year. And that's when I kind of spoke to a couple of colleagues who'd also left the previous company, and we realized, wow, we still need this product. There doesn't seem to be anything like this out there. And so that's when we started building it from scratch as an external standalone thing.
So one of the big things that a lot of SEs, I feel that's my thought, I could be wrong, want to do something like what you're doing. Not necessarily the same tool, obviously. Don't compete. But they might have their own problems. Like I don't have that same problem that you have, but I have a million other problems. And doing it on my own? Like, did you learn, like you were a civil engineer. How did you learn to code to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it was already part of my role was I took a JavaScript course, for example, because our product was basically a JavaScript tag that had to be loaded in customers' websites. So lots of questions about loading performance and how do we recommend adding this tag? How do we integrate it with other tools that are on this page, like Google Analytics and stuff? So I already knew I had to learn a bit of JavaScript and HTML and such. And then, yeah, I hacked the first version together myself in JavaScript. And I guess for people who are wanting to do something similar but think they don't know, you just got to start somewhere. There are a lot of even no and low code platforms out there which are getting better all the time, which can get you to that prototype phase if nothing else. And then where we are now is that one of my former colleagues who's more technical than myself, and he's a wizard with React and Next.js. He's done the bulk of the development on this standalone version that we've built. So you come up with an idea, get it as far as you can yourself, and you never know whose attention you'll get to kind of help you take it to the next stage and fill in the skills that you're missing.
Nice. And like in terms of partnerships, how did you guys agree to work with each other now that I'm assuming each of you are a different company and everybody has their own crap to deal with, generally speaking. How do you make sure, like, it's part-time, it's a secondary objective, or like you have your job that you're being paid for? How do you make sure that you're accountable to each other and doing the work?
It's a good question because it's never going to be equal amounts of work. That's kind of why it worked, because we started with that conversation. Like, are we all in agreement? This is a secondary, tertiary commitment after our careers and our families, and we all have things that come ahead of that. And because we were all kind of in the same boat in that regard, at least expectations were set early. And actually, we had one of our advisors or mentors said that more startups die because of suicide than homicide, right? Everyone's focused about their competition and such. But more startup teams need to have that conversation internally, like, how much of a priority is this to ourselves? When are we going to take that next step and turn it into a bigger priority, if at all? What would be the trigger that would make that happen? And if people are in different minds about that, then that's when the conflict occurs.
So you've been doing this for almost a year part-time, like external tool. What's it called, by the way? Plug it, please.
Still called deckbuilder, deckbuilder.io.
Deckbuilder.io, so people should check it out there. What are the biggest challenges within the group of people? Is it two other people that you're working with?
Yeah, there are three of us, exactly.
So what are the set of challenges, whether between each other or externally, that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's humbling because you build something for someone like yourself. So you think you know how it should work, what it should do, what people need. And between the three of us, we have quite a network of sales engineers and account executives who we think are our target user. I've talked to tons and tons of them, given them demos, given them hands-on time, get some feedback. And the challenge is, because they know you, they all say, "Oh, we love it. It's great. Totally get it." And then you say, "Well, great. It's yours. It's free. There's a free plan. Try it out." And then a lot of them go quiet and don't really use it much, right? And so that's probably one of the biggest challenges. It's how do you get honest feedback from people or people. It's a natural human tendency, right, to want to please people and want to say, "This sounds great."
Well, okay, here's what I see, which is a great point. It's like, I have it, you gave it to me, right? And I said, "Oh, I need to do all that stuff with it," and I just don't have time, right? Like, I want to do it. I think it's a great idea, and whether I can or not, that's a different story. So the question is, what if I paid for it? Would I be willing to? Would I be obliged to put in more time? Would I pay for it?
Yeah,
I guess that's the question that, because I am also running the SE hotline, and I started off by jumping on calls with hundreds of SEs and SE leaders. "Hey, this is interesting. Do you want?" It's like, "That's an amazing idea. Perfect. All right." And then a few months later, I launched it. It's like, "All right, I launched it." Crickets. Now that they need to pay for it, it's like,
yeah.
Like,
no, you're absolutely
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think that's super valid feedback, and exactly a phenomena that's happening. And you have to try and figure out, well, how do you test something before you actually take money, right? If you're selling a product, then they say, have a landing page, get them to enter their credit card details, and then say, sorry, it's not actually ready yet, right? But you validate them that people would pay for it. One interesting quote I heard was like, ask questions that even your mother would have to give you an honest answer to, kind of how you word a question. So I don't know if I can think of a good example, but you can do like a negative thing, like say to someone, I don't think this would actually work for you. It doesn't seem like it's relevant for your job. Let them correct you, right, and tell you why. Tell them why you're wrong. So that's a habit to build. And yeah, in terms of like, you're right. When we built this as an internal tool and got a ton of engagement, one thing that was critically different was I was the admin. I managed all these template decks, and people could just generate decks quite quickly and easily. Now that it's a standalone tool and we're trying to get it in the hands of different companies, you need someone to be that champion, to be that admin, and to put in the overhead time before they get any benefit from it to set it up properly.